Just men ringing all the time, 30 to 50 times a day.
These were children that might have been trafficked, had been gang raped.
She was being exploited by a ruthless gang of rapists.
We'll never have a full sense of the scale of what's happened.
Authorities were not dealing with crime properly.
This lengthy trial marks the culmination of a 2.5-year investigation by South Yorkshire Police, the Crown Prosecution Service and Rotherham Council into the systematic and organised sexual abuse of young girls in Rotherham. Even more importantly, the verdict today marks a crucial milestone for those victims and survivors who endured years of violent and horrific sexual abuse at the hands of these vile individuals. They have shown incredible bravery, reliving vicious and traumatic events for the courts that for many of these young women completely shattered their lives and caused life-changing damage. I can't begin to put into words the trauma that these women experienced at such a young age. For their courage and for their support of this investigation, I am eternally thankful, and I can't really express how pleased I am for them. I'm pleased that their voices have finally been heard, believed, and that those responsible have been publicly held to account for the crimes. 2 defendants were found not guilty by the jury, and whilst of course I am disappointed, I fully respect the verdict and the legal system that I work to. This prosecution covers a 16-year period with offences dating from 1987 to 2003. Today we have secured the conviction of 6 individuals with 45 criminal offences. We accept there is still much to do. I can only hope that the victims out there see the result today and the work of the agencies involved throughout this investigation to bring this case before the courts. I hope this gives them the confidence to come forward and tell someone what happened or may still be happening. If victims of sexual abuse come to the police, we will help them, we will support them and do everything we can to put these criminals responsible in prison where they belong.
Those figures we've just heard, that's the tip of the iceberg, isn't it? We'll never have a full sense of the scale of what's happened.
We won't, Mark, but every one of those numbers is a life destroyed. I think Charlie's done an amazing job, actually, Charlie, with that documentary. I think you've pulled together a lot of the information that was needed. I set up the Maggie Oliver Foundation about 3 years ago because the authorities were not and still are not dealing with this crime properly. They were not gathering the statistics, they weren't gathering the information. I have now gathered a really good team around me. We've built our own system and we are collecting the evidence that the government and the politicians don't want people to know. And Charlie's referred to the fact that racism has been linked to this kind of crime. In every case is a child or a young woman who has their whole life destroyed. And 55% of the cases on our system since 2020 have got an element of sexual exploitation to them. And the victims who come to us only come to us because they have been failed and are being dismissed by the police and the authorities when they go to them in desperation for help. Many of them are being criminalised. They are being blamed still for their own abuse. On Snapchat and on messaging, they take photographs of them because, as Charlie's highlighted, it still is they befriend them, they become a boyfriend, they think they're in a relationship. Often one of these children will send photographs to their abuser. That photograph then becomes a means of threatening and blackmailing and frightening those children because, we had a case recently of a little girl of 11 who had sent photographs to her boyfriend. He then threatened to send them to her parents. Her father contacted the police. Police officers turned up into their home address, walked straight up to this little girl who was mortified and basically said to her, "Look, do you know that you have committed criminal offences by sending those photographs on your phone? But if you don't say anything more about it, delete your messages, delete your computer, we won't do anything else about it." And the father rightly came to the foundation in absolute disgust because behind that man threatening that girl is another gang, and there will be many, many other victims. And the police need to act when they are faced with information like that.
There appear to have been upwards of 250,000 young white girls raped, very largely by Muslim men.
How old was she?
Yeah, she's 14. Yeah, she
Right.
told me, yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 32.
What nationality are you?
Pakistan.
Pakistani.
You're new here. Where are you from?
Pakistan.
Pakistan. You said that you want to have sex with her, you said you want to kiss her, you want to cuddle her, or you've also taught her how to masturbate, haven't you? You told her what to do. A child.
Can I just say this is one of those instances where hushing up of the crime is as worse and as blood-curdling as the crime itself. I want to go a little bit beyond that, because unless we go to the psyche of what is happening, not just of the perpetrators, but of the government, of the state, I'm afraid this is something that's going to repeat in country after country. Because the fact is, Pradesh, we are living in a world where you believe what you see. But unfortunately, what you see is written by those who see what they believe. So objectivity has become that metallic object that must be left behind before you pass through the electronic threshold. But the problem comes when one party, one ideology, one dogma, one system controls the discourse or weighs in on it. That's when you stop being objective and start to editorialize and play God. And this is what has happened around the world. Out of political correctness or virtue signaling or being co-opted by Islamists, journalists and politicians are petrified and scared of talking of Islam or Muslim practices, or indeed when Muslims perpetrate criminal acts for fear of being branded Islamophobic. In fact, it is the Muslims who are Islamophobic. That is, they fear Islam. They fear to bring out the orders and the commandments of their holy book in its entirety on Jews, Christians, polytheists, homosexuality, apostasy, heresy, dress code, wife beating, blasphemy, because they fear being called illiberal. And this is what we saw in Britain when mass child rapes resulted from the grooming of underage girls at the hands of Muslim gangs for years. But the police and the politicians not only turned a blind eye, they accused and shamed the victims and their families. They arrested many fathers who complained. Pranesh, we are living in an age of wokeism, victimhood, selectivity and political correctness. And I don't know if we are allowed to tell the truth anymore. Away from Britain, I want to take a minute because this is important. We have seen the very same perfidy being played out in India. We don't talk about it. Remember the horrendous Ajmer grooming case in 1990? 250 girls met similar fate as they fed in UK. It was totally hushed up. Politicians didn't want to rake it up for fear of annoying the Muslim vote bank. Remember the cases of love jihad that continue to be hushed up, continue to be called a figment of one's imagination by journalists and opposition. This is the fact. The thing is, they are happening with alarming regularity. When it suits media, even one incident merits an outrage, and here it suits them to ignore the hell a Hindu or a Christian woman goes through during love jihad. The recent chilling report from Bihar of a man named Muhammad Rahim impersonating himself as Arjun, luring a Dalit woman into relationship with the promise of marriage. After they engaged in a physical relationship, Arjun reverted to Rahim, told her he won't marry unless she converts. Should the Dalit woman get justice? This is the problem, because we are only looking at these crimes superficially. We're not looking at what happens, who hides these crimes, and they will keep on happening.
So in Holland, the grooming gangs in the UK are called lover boys. Yeah? In India, it's called love jihad. We call it grooming gangs, but in Holland, it's called lover boys because the young Muslim males make the young girl fall in love with them, then they introduce them to prostitution and That's what happens. So it's called Love Boys. They wanted to put that into the educational system in the UK to warn the children. Yeah, there was a big cry about that, saying it's racist. Yeah, because it's all targeting the Muslims who are doing it. Yeah, so I sit and we're talking about this video, and I say, do you know what? I don't care if it incites fear. I'm talking about the video. I don't care if it incites fear. If it stops young girls getting raped.
जैसे ग्रूमिंग गैंग होते हैं, वो क्या करते हैं, पहले एक लड़की को ट्रैप करते हैं, उसके बनाते हैं इस तरीके के वीडियोस, पहले एक बंदा करता है, फिर दूसरा करता है, फिर तीसरा करता है, ऐसे 50-50 लोग होते हैं।
क्या होता है?
ग्रूमिंग गैंग्स। क्या बोलते हैं? लड़कियों को ग्रूम किया जाता है छोटी उम्र से। स्कूल की लड़कियों को टारगेट करते हैं। वो क्या करते हैं कि लड़की को देखी, उसके सामने कोई लड़का आएगा बाइक पे, गाड़ी में, थोड़ा फैशन में, थोड़ा पैसे वैसे दिखा के, और ग्रुप में आएंगे कि उनके ग्रुप में एक लड़की के थ्रू, दूसरी लड़की के थ्रू। उसके बाद इसको अपने ग्रुप में लेंगे, उसको मौज मस्ती करवाएंगे, खिलाएंगे पिलाएंगे, क्लबिंग जाएंगे, ड्रिंक होगा, ड्रग्स भी होते हैं। उसके बाद उस लड़की के साथ कोई प्रपोज करेगा, उनमें से कोई एक लड़का बोलेगा शादी करेंगे। उसके बाद वो लड़की उस रिलेशनशिप में जाएगी। व्हेन दे गेट फिजिकल, उस टाइम पे उसके वीडियोस बनाए जाते हैं। फिर उस लड़की की ब्लैकमेलिंग शुरू होती है, लेकिन उसको डराया भी जाता है साथ साथ। तो शुरुआत में तो प्यार से बात होती है, जब रिलेशनशिप में आए तो फिर दिखाते हो कि देख मैंने तो इतने आदमी मार दिए, ये गोली मार दूंगा मैं, इतना बड़ा चाकू तलवार है हमारे पास। उसके सामने जानवर काटे जाते हैं, मुर्गे काटे जाते हैं, दिखाया जाता है ऐसा, ताकि डर बैठे। और तूने हमारे खिलाफ बोला तो तेरे परिवार में तेरे भाई को मार देंगे, बहन को मार देंगे, उसके साथ भी ऐसे करेंगे, पिताजी को मार देंगे। तो लड़की पहले तो ब्लैकमेल हो रही है, उसके बाद वो लड़की डर रही है क्योंकि उसको दिख के तलवार चाकू और सब चीज़ें, और जो उसको बताया था कि हमारे ग्रुप में बदमाश भी हैं। फिर वो लड़का जो है वो बैकफुट पे आता है और वो इंट्रोड्यूस करता है उसे बाकी लोगों के साथ, और वो सारे एक एक करके लाइन में लड़की को सालों साल तक एक्सप्लॉइट करते हैं। ये ग्रूमिंग गैंग इंडिया में चल रहे हैं।
दिस इज नॉट फॉर मनी, दिस इज ओनली फॉर पर्सनल एंटरटेनमेंट।
टू सम एक्सटेंट कहीं पे मनी के लिए भी है, क्योंकि लड़की जब जॉब करेगी तो उससे पैसा भी लिया जाता है। और नॉट जस्ट एंटरटेनमेंट, वो लड़की को इस लायक ही नहीं छोड़ते कि वो किसी और के साथ शादी करके रह सके।
मेंटली फिजिकली स्कार कर देते,
खत्म। सुसाइड करने के अलावा लड़की के पास ऑप्शन नहीं होता है। आपका अजमेर का, राजस्थान में अजमेर है, वहाँ का ग्रूमिंग गैंग का वेबसाइट पे उस पर डालो गूगल पे, आपको पता लग जाएगा। तो 90s से चल रहा है, अब तो बहुत सारी स्टेट में और भी निकल के आ रहे हैं। स्पेसिफिकली टारगेट करते हैं लड़की को,
ग्रुप बना के ढूंढ के कि कौन सी वल्नरेबल लड़की दिख रही है उसके साथ,
उसको वल्नरेबल बना देते हैं। स्ट्रॉन्ग से स्ट्रॉन्ग लड़की नहीं कर पाती है,